Hello and welcome back to CSPAN5. I'm Brian Nell, filling in for our regular anchor, Ryan O'Neill, as he is sick with the flu. For those of our viewers who are still awake, I'd like to welcome you back to an excellent special of landmark U.S. Supreme Court cases. This week, we will be discussing the U.S. Supreme Court case of the Heart of Atlanta Motel versus the United States. Now this is one of my favorite cases, and it's an excellent case on both sides, as you have a motel owner who feels that he is being violated by the U.S. Congress after they passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Now this bans discrimination, racial discrimination, in public places. You would assume that this motel would be a public place, and yet he feels that this is unconstitutional and that the United States Congress is unable to pass this with their Interstate Commerce Clause. Now, while that makes lots of sense, I feel that in the end, this case may just be a little bit of a miscommunication between both parties. For I feel that you have, on one hand, the United States Congress doing an excellent job trying to protect and preserve their citizens and government. And on the other hand, you have simply an honest, hard-working American who wants nothing more than to run his motel in the fashion that he does, and he's not a racist whatsoever. Now, what I have to say is that the Heart of Atlanta Motel, an excellent motel by the way, was located, as its namesake suggests, in the heart of Atlanta. And according to my excellent research team, one of the best in the world, I have found that this motel is actually located between two United States interstates, namely Interstates 75 and Interstates 85. Those weren't supposed to be plural. Now, during this case, let's begin at the beginning. You have the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed, which bans racial discrimination, as we discussed, and so the Heart of Atlanta Motel was run by this man, Morton Rolston, and he felt he reserved the right to refuse service to whomever he decided. In this case, it was black people was the key factor in determining who he refused service to. Unfortunately, the United States felt differently and said that he could not do that. His opinion is obviously different than the United States. They don't seem to coincide. And he decides to bring this case against the United States, saying that they do not have the power to even make this law, as their Interstate Commerce Clause does not extend to his motel. It is not allowed. And that this act violates his Fifth Amendment rights, saying that when they force him to allow the patrons into his rooms, they are taking his property without just compensation or due process of law, which is our Fifth Amendment right. Furthermore, he goes on to say that the United States Congress is putting him in a position of involuntary servitude by forcing him to serve these patrons which he wishes not to. Now, this does violate his 13th Amendment right, saying that no one is a slave. And at first, it seems like he makes a good case. However, the justices do not feel the same. A district court rules in favor of the United States and issues an injunction on the Heart of Atlanta Motel, Incorporated, to refrain from using racial discrimination as a term, as a policy, in which it offers goods or services to its clients. Then, he feels that he was wronged, this Mr. Rolston. He feels that he was not treated fairly by the district court, and so he takes this case to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, however, led by Justice Tom C. Clark, gave the decision that the district court was correct, and that the other justices also issued concurring opinions. 3 justices, Mr. Arthur Goldberg, Justice Hugo Black, and William O. Douglas, all issued concurring opinions. In fact, this case was decided 9-0 in favor of the United States, and the injunction was upheld by the United States Supreme Court because they determined that since his motel was located between 2 interstates, as well as 2 major U.S. highways, this would indeed affect interstate commerce. Furthermore, 75% of his clientele came from out of state, once again clearly signifying an interstate commerce relation. They said that the argument pursuant to the 13th Amendment was invalid, as that amendment had to do with slavery, and asking him to not refuse service by basis of race had nothing to do with slavery. They also said that asking him to not refuse service on the basis of race was not the taking of his property without just compensation or due process of law, and they found that his argument was really invalid. And so, in the end, I find that our friend, Mr. Mostyn, whatever his name was, maybe was not the greatest fan of the United States, as we've stated previously, but rather, in fact, an enemy that the United States Supreme Court was able to swiftly and justly deal with. And I find that in the end, the Supreme Court made an excellent decision. The civil rights of our nation have been preserved, and that our nation is growing once again from that point onward to become the beautiful and incredible superpower that it is today. I love America, and I love our Supreme Court. Thank you.